Salam and welcome back to our channel. I'm Ange.
I'm Val,
and together we're A and V.
So today we have 5 assumptions about us as Muslim women. And so I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with our first assumption. So the first assumption that people have about me is that I'm a Muslim convert or revert, just simply because I don't look like the stereotypical Muslim and because my name is Valerie. It's an American name, it's not Arab. And so they just assume that I was not born Muslim.
I guess mine is a little bit different given that you wear a hijab, so it's an easy tell that you're Muslim, but mine is on the different end where the first assumption that I have that a lot of people make for me is that I'm not even Muslim. Given the fact that I don't look like the stereotypical face of what they think a Muslim looks like, there's no way that I can be Muslim. Since I'm not Arab or I'm not African even, there's no way that someone like me who looks like me in my face could be Muslim. But little do they know that I'm Indonesian, and that's the largest population that you can find in any country of Muslim people. There's like 225 million Muslims, and the population is about 87% Muslim. So
yes, Indonesia is actually the largest Muslim population in the world. My second assumption about me is that I'm too religious, or I'm more of a nun, as some people may say, just because I decide to cover. And that couldn't be any more false, just because I do practice the hijab and I look visibly Muslim. I make my own mistakes. I'm only human. I'm just as good as the person next to me.
yeah, you're learning.
Yes,
you learn
always.
every day.
It's a learning process.
It's not you're perfect. You're just striving to be the best version of yourself.
Yes, of course, all the time.
Yeah. And I think that's hard for people to see past the hijab oftentimes.
Yes.
They just see the hijab and they don't see you as a person behind the hijab.
Oh, definitely, especially on social media and just like cancel culture. It's very toxic because me being like essentially a nobody, I don't have that many followers as a lot of like these other people on Instagram do. And even then I would still get hate comments about how I'm dressed or how my hijab looks, and I'm just like, I don't wear it for your benefit. I don't wear it for your purpose. I do it for me, solely for myself, and to better me as a Muslim. And that means if I'm making mistakes, then I make mistakes.
Everyone's going in their own journey, and like we're not here to judge each other, but rather just uplift everyone. Yeah, I totally feel that. I guess another assumption people make about me is that I don't really know anything about Islam and I'm not religious. Just because of the fact that I don't look, like I said before, like the stereotypical face, the poster child of a Muslim woman. Like, for example, a Muslim friend of mine, and I walk into their home and I go, Assalamu alaikum. Their parents are like, oh my gosh, like, wa alaikum salam, you say it so well. And I'm just like, yeah, like, I hope so. Like, I grew up in the mosque. I've been going to Saturday school and Islamic school since I've been forever, right? You know what I mean? Like, I really hope that education paid off. Rather than like a hijabi going into a mosque and praying, I get extra kudos for going into a mosque and praying, and they like really try to give me compliments to kind of motivate me. Rather than it making me feel like motivated, it makes me kind of feel like, wow, like what am I doing wrong that makes people think that I need that kind of encouragement or I need that kind of like motivation. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's an assumption people make. I think
just also the fact that you're non-hijabi. It's just like, are you sure you're Muslim? Oh, actually the biggest assumption that people make about us is that
as Muslim women
that we're oppressed.
Yeah, so that's actually really, really funny to me that people think that like, oh, as a Muslim woman, you are oppressed. But if you just like look at politically or even socially, it's really the mass media that like really perpetuates xenophobia. All you ever hear about Islam is just the negative aspects. Like you hear about like Islamic states that like beat their women, force them to wear burqas, and they can't even drive. You see that in the media, but you don't see the monumental kind of changes and leadership position that like women in Islam and Islamic states hold. Like, Islamic states in like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Liberia, and even in Indonesia they had a female president, and versus here in the United States, it's representation for female women leaders are not as prevalent in Islamic states. So that's something to think about.
So I think it's more of like a Western culture that's trying to create the dialogue about how Muslim women are oppressed and we need to help them. We need to save these Muslim women. And it's like, in a way, you need to kind of separate Islam and culture. Because a lot of the times it's the culture or the state that they live in that's oppressing the women, and it's completely not at all related to religion or Islam. Like, nobody forced me to wear a hijab. I chose to do it myself, and that's a choice that I take and that I own. And you know, you can't say that I'm oppressed just because I decide to cover myself, and you can't say somebody else is oppressed because they choose not to wear a certain like clothing item, you know. I think it's just like France, for example, and their hijab ban, and how they're trying to say women who are under 18 years old are not allowed to wear the hijab. Isn't that not oppression? You're oppressing the women by telling them to take off their hijab, something that's rightfully theirs. So if anything, I feel like Western culture is oppressing women more than Islam is.
Like, whenever I get into a fight with my mom, she's always just like, you know that Jannah is under the feet of the mom, right?
Oh
like,
God,
you can't go to heaven unless it's me. So like the role of the woman is very, very prevalent and very important in Islam. So
yes, as a hijabi, is that, you know, I'm supposed to be this like prim and proper, very quiet, doesn't really speak her thoughts, doesn't speak her mind, but it's like the complete opposite. Because, you know, if anybody ever knows, or everybody has been in that situation, if somebody does me wrong, I won't be afraid to say it.
Yeah.
Like, I will let them know, and they would look at me wide-eyed and like, whoa, you have a voice?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can speak up to me like a man?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yes. You know?
I can like speak a lot about assumptions that my friend actually had of you, because I have a lot of friends. Valerie's like my oldest friend, but like a lot of my friends who are non-Muslim meet Valerie. A lot of the time they're just like surprised by her personality and like, wow, like Valerie's so cool, which kind of like sometimes rubs me the wrong way, because they automatically just assume that like because she wears a hijab she'll be boring because she like doesn't want to speak or have like an opinion of herself. But every time they'll be like, wow, she's like so cool, she's so down to earth, like she's very open and she's very easy to talk to. Because honestly, a lot of people, especially non-Muslims, when they come into contact with a woman wearing a hijab, I kind of go through this whole psychological like battle in their own head of thinking like what's appropriate to say to someone wearing a hijab or what's not appropriate. The same way a woman who's wearing a hijab versus someone who's not wearing a hijab, treat them exactly the same. Like, you know what I mean? If you don't think you should say something to a woman not wearing a hijab, don't say it to a woman wearing a hijab. And if you don't think you should say it to a person wearing a hijab, don't say it to a normal woman. Like, you know, a hijabi woman is the same thing as a non-hijabi woman. So
exactly. Like, just because, you know, we believe in a religion different from yours doesn't make us any less human, doesn't make us any less different. I read the same books, watch the same movies as you guys do. The only difference is that we practice religion, I practice the hijab, and that's it. Just because we look different doesn't mean that we are much different.
And I guess a good rule of thumb is rather than making assumptions, the best thing that you can do is just ask. You know, it doesn't hurt to ask, you know. It's always a learning moment, and the only way that you can really know is if you ask, right? And I think me and Valerie are very open, and we love to talk about our experiences, both as a Muslim woman wearing a hijab and like me, a Muslim woman who doesn't wear a hijab. And I actually like when people ask me about my culture and my religion and how I grew up. So the best way, rather than changing how you act, maybe ask us and we could just tell you. It's better than guessing around, right?
Yes, definitely, 100%.
Yeah, so those are a few assumptions that we experience as Muslim women. I would love to hear what you guys kind of assume about us, or assumptions that people make of you and your experience being Muslim, for those who are Muslim and are watching.
And of course, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn your bell notifications on so that you get notified when we post a new video of relatable Muslim content.
Until next time, salam!